F1 Elvis. For next hashtag Ask Elvis or hashtag Electric Tuesday, could you talk about some of the other EV racing series that are coming along beyond Formula E, i.e. Electric GT, Extreme E or others? Thanks. Yeah, right. What's up guys, and welcome to another Electric Tuesday. Thank you very much for that. That particular question came from Whiskey Canuck. Thank you for that, because you've raised a good point here. Formula E has taken all the headlines, hasn't it, in terms of electric racing over the last few years. It's developing into something that I love. You know I love it. I've always loved it. I've always been a massive fan of what they're trying to achieve. The manufacturers all love it. They're all ploughing in like there's no tomorrow. We're almost there with a full grid of different OEM manufacturers. That's unheard of in any other type of international motorsport. So Formula E is going great guns right now. But what else is there? Because Formula E is now in its 5th season, and as you touched on there in that very question, we now are starting to hear about others. Electric GT, let's start with that one. You may or may not have heard of that, but Electric GT is entering an area that I have thought that Formula E may have migrated into over time. You think about how the manufacturers are ploughing into Formula E and how the technology, the electric motor and battery technology is developing within that Formula E platform. You know, that's great for a manufacturer because they can plough R&D funding into that. They can tick a massive green box in terms of their PR as well. But there's nothing visual about that car other than the livery that connects it to the customer of a Jaguar road car or a Mercedes road car, an Audi or whatever it might be, because they're single-seaters. I've long thought that it's only a matter of time before something migrates into an electric touring car type championship. Well, Electric GT may not quite be that just yet, but it's definitely heading down that path. It starts with every team and every driver using the same car. It's a Tesla P100D, the top of the range Tesla, the most powerful of all Teslas. And on top of what Tesla can deliver as a road car, it's been race spec'd. So it's been lightened, it's had roll cages and suspension upgrades and those kind of things. It will do 0 to 60 in 2.1 seconds. It has something like I think it's about 750 horsepower, nearly 1,000 Newton meters of torque. It's an incredibly powerful bit of kit. If you've seen any of my videos on the Teslas that I've been lucky enough to drive, you know how quick they are just on the road. So these things are going to be epic on a racetrack. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Electric GT develops, because in that first season when they're all using Teslas, and by the way, this is not a Tesla-backed championship. This is Electric GT Holdings, based out in Barcelona, who've opted to use a Tesla as their base model. And why wouldn't you? Up until now, there's been nothing that can even come close to the performance specs of a Tesla in the EV road car world. But there's a definite opportunity for a race series for manufacturers, electric vehicle manufacturers, to directly promote their core products, which they can't necessarily do in Formula E. In Season 4, when the technical roadmap opens up to allow manufacturers to design their own bodywork around a common chassis, around a common battery and battery management system, the cockpit will be standard, but the silhouette of the car, well, that will then be completely open to the manufacturers to recreate a car that looks like the cars that they be selling to road car customers on a Monday morning. And on a Sunday afternoon, that car can be competing in a very public way on a racetrack. If you're the winning car on a Sunday, the people, the fans watching that race, know that on a Monday they can go out and buy a car that looks just like that one. And that is an opportunity for manufacturers that I think is too good to miss. Also in Season 4, I've got the specs of the car here. They think by Season 4 the car will have up to 825 kilowatts of power. Now, put that into context, a Formula E car in its highest spec at the moment has 250 kilowatts. That equates, 825 kilowatts equates to 1,122 brake horsepower. That's mind-blowing. 0 to 60 in 1.7 seconds. I mean, that is That you can't even quite fathom what that must feel like. So we're talking about developing technologies, just like in Formula E, that will be directly relevant, but also from a manufacturer point of view, being able to publicly portray the cars that you're selling. Your core products can now be on a platform of an international race series, which the one thing that Formula E doesn't have, of course, is that. So I think that's one really to keep an eye on, Electric GT. Check it out, I'll pop a link in the description, but really, really interesting. The other one that you must have seen recently is Extreme E. Now this comes from Alejandro Agag, along with a group of other founders for this championship. This is the same people, or at least the core people who started the Formula E championship, have also recognised a need to move into a different space where manufacturers again can see benefit from promoting their core products, specifically with Extreme E, the SUV market. A huge, rapidly growing marketplace for electric vehicles, SUVs. And what happens in Extreme E is that they have decided to take this, not like a traditional race series, but they're going to run this in a round-robin style knockout championship almost, across 5 extreme locations. Locations that are already being affected or damaged by climate change. And they will take these electric EVs into these extreme locations and run them through circuits, through tracks that they set up across these locations, bringing awareness, of course, to these particular locations that need it most, trying to highlight the problem. They've come up with the idea of a floating paddock on a ship, and you may well have seen some of the launch promo stuff done last week, where the inside of the ship will be the paddock for all of the teams. The cars will be housed, the teams will be housed on board this ship. It will sail to the location, and then they'll be unloaded from the ship, take part in the event, back onto the ship, move further around the world to the next location. It's a really interesting and unique concept, and that is what I take from this most of all. It's unique and innovative. So it's not one potentially for traditional race fans. This is not about putting cars on a circuit to see who can go quickest. This is much more of a challenge rather than an out-and-out race. It's about durability, it's about perseverance, it's about dealing with some extreme challenges. And if you're a manufacturer and you are looking to get into that SUV market, where you are selling cars based on the fact they can deal with whatever the world might throw at them, well, it's probably a pretty good opportunity, isn't it? So I like it. Definitely one to watch. I think that's a really interesting concept. This is what I love about Alejandro Agag. He started Formula E in the face of all sorts of adversity, all sorts of criticism, you know, very little support from the traditional motorsport world, and yet he ploughed on through with it. And look where he's got to. And I can't help but thinking this has got the same sort of legs, a very different direction to go in. But he's doing something that nobody else has done or has had the bottle to try and do. Now finally, the third one and final one that I want to talk about, and this is one that's quite close to my heart because I've been loosely involved in this from the beginning, and this is the 80-day race. You may not have heard of this yet. It's not had huge coverage just yet because there's been a lot of work going on in the background, but gradually now we are ramping up towards a launch date. And this is the 80-day race, is a concept founded by a friend of mine now, Frank Manders, who came up with this idea. It's based on Jules Verne's book, of course, 80 Days Around the World. But this is a race or a challenge to get around the world in 80 days without using any combustion-powered vehicles. And that's really the only rule. You have to hit certain checkpoints on the way round. There's a start point, which is Paris. There's a finish point, which is Monaco. There are a number of checkpoints on the way. But other than that, you can take whichever route you want as long as you hit the checkpoints. You can use whichever kind of vehicle you want as long as it doesn't burn fossil fuels, doesn't have any sort of combustion-powered engine. Again, a fascinating idea, a fascinating concept. And as soon as I heard of this, you know, I was interested. And that's why I made contact with Frank. That's how I got in, you know, I got to know Frank. I've long wanted to be involved in this, initially from a media perspective, perhaps now even as a competitor, and it may well still happen. There are talks happening right now which may see me taking part in this event. I would love for that to happen, and of course I'll let you know as soon as there is any news on that at the moment. But it happens next year, and I think what's happened already is that there's a number of teams signed up. Some of those are using, you know, a pretty standard road-going vehicle. Others have designed their own vehicle, bespoke for the purpose. Others are converting vehicles into something that they think will work better for this particular challenge. And this is not about necessarily going around the world as quickly as you possibly can. Although it's called 80-day race, this is a challenge. It's a real challenge, and it's obviously, along with all the others, it's about highlighting the problem. It's about highlighting awareness, or bringing awareness to the need for reducing combustion-powered transportation. And I think anything that does that right now is a big tick in my box, and something that I think is going to gain more and more support as time goes on. You know, Formula E has started this ball rolling, and now there are others that are joining this kind of growing force of sustainable motorsport. You know, it's only going to get bigger and better as time rolls on. Don't get me wrong, I'm one of the most traditional racing fans that there could possibly be. I love noisy, loud, fast, gas-guzzling racing cars as an entertainment spectacle. But I also love innovation. I love innovative technology, and the things that I've mentioned today are all about innovative technology. The automotive world is changing faster now than it has changed in the last 100 years. And anybody who has even the slightest bit of interest in the automotive sector, and that includes the motorsport sector, you've got to find that interesting, even just at the very least level, at the very lowest level. Some of these championships I've talked about today, some of these projects, you know, they will have varying degrees of success. None of them have launched properly yet. But the point is, they're all pioneers in their individual areas. And for that, I have absolute maximum respect. If you like the video, guys, give it a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I talk on here about electric racing technology, electric technology in general, but also more traditional motorsport, Formula 1, Formula E, basically anything that goes quickly, anything that's innovative, anything that's technologically based. I love it, and if you do too, hit subscribe and you'll get more videos like this one. Thank you very much for now. I shall see you next time.